Hello and welcome to the Joe Ligato Show. I'm your host, Dr. Joe Ligato, and today we're going to be reviewing a number of updates on the Israeli conflict, what I'm calling the Judeo-Islamic War of 2023. And that may sound like a bit of a exaggeration, but I do believe that this conflict is escalating and there are not enough forces on either side that really want to see a de-escalation at this point, given the recent occurrences. And so we're going to look at what has been happening, some of the Israeli propaganda that is very self-evidently ridiculous, and then we're going to get at which countries are likely to be at war with Israel in a few days, if not weeks, or a few weeks, if not days at this point. And we're going to look at some of the other potential future ramifications of what's going on right now. So that is the current state of this. And let's see what we have here for us. So this first video is on various Al-Qaeda training materials. And this is Isaac Herzog, who is the president of Israel. And he is saying this.
Of those sadistic villains. This is material which was found on the body of one of those sadistic villains. It's Al-Qaeda material, official Al-Qaeda material. We're dealing with ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and Hamas. This is what we're dealing with. And in this material, there were instructions how to produce chemical weapons.
So this, you can't see it particularly clearly here, but it says literally Al-Qaeda in English there. And it turns out that someone did a image search for this, and it's actually just a legitimate book. It's not a book on chemical weapons. It's just a book that you can find on, say, Amazon. And so the president of Israel is out here spewing propaganda, saying that there are chemical weapons, similar to how they said there were chemical weapons in Syria, similar to how they said there were nuclear weapons in Iraq. They use the same stupid excuses to go to war, to commit war crimes. And for some reason, quite a few people, particularly in the West, actually do end up believing it. No matter how many times that these villains in charge of Western countries, and I do consider Israel to be a Western country, no matter how many times these villains lie to people, Westerners still believe it because Westerners are the most propagandized people in the world. And so that is just where we're starting, with very blatant propaganda being spewed by the president of Israel. Then we have here some genocidal rhetoric, and you have Ben Norden here posting it. Ben Norden does a lot of great work. And this is the prime minister of Israel. So we just heard from the president of Israel spewing propaganda. And now let's see what the prime minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, has to say about this situation. This is a struggle between the children of light and the children of darkness, between humanity and the law of the jungle. So very dehumanizing language for the children of Palestine, calling them the children of darkness. And it's no wonder that about half of the casualties in Palestine are actual children. And so we have both the president and prime minister here using inhumane language, spewing propaganda. Situation really can't get much worse, but we have a short clip here to show how it can still get worse. Okay, here we have an Israeli politician who Dr. Anastasia Maria Lupez is referencing here. And she's saying that this Israeli politician blows up after her colleague said all children are equal. And so let's see what this politician in Israel has to say, though.
Israeli politician blows up after colleagues said that all children are equal.
ילד הוא ילד, אם הוא ביישובי העוטף או בעזה עצמה.
Okay, so she's saying there is not symmetry. There is no symmetry. Okay, so this is after the other politician said that all children are equal.
Then she made a more malicious statement.
So there's no symmetry, and the children of Gaza brought it upon themselves. So all those bombed children that you're seeing on television, everyone who's dying, losing limbs, this politician is saying that they brought it on themselves. We're a people who live in peace, a people who seek life.
בחיים. אין סימטריה.
How is it possible to talk about peace?
So just increasingly dehumanizing language from the Israeli side about Palestinians, saying they have no right to exist. You're seeing politicians saying that their entire country is going to cease to exist. You're seeing people saying the only reason they're not using nukes on Gaza is because the wind would blow nuclear materials to Israel. So just heinous things being talked about when it comes to Israeli, or when it comes to the Israelis talking about Palestinians. Now we see an escalation occurring, and this is something that kind of went under the radar for a lot of people, which was in Yemen, there were missiles being shot towards Israel, from what it sounds like, and those missiles were intercepted by United States naval crafts. And so that is showing some further evidence that America is getting directly involved with military conflicts in the Middle East in order to protect Israel. There's also evidence that various American officials, various American military members are on the ground there in Israel. And so America is becoming directly involved in this conflict. And so the Prime Minister of Yemen is here saying that they are taking credit for the missiles and drones launched towards Israel, some of which were intercepted by the United States. If the attacks on Gaza continue, Israeli ships will be targeted in the Red Sea. So another country that might be joining the fray soon. Here we see another element, another aspect of the ongoing crisis, which is that Israel is not only in conflict with Gaza and the Sunni Muslims in Gaza, but they're also in conflict with the Shia militias in northern Israel, southern Lebanon, such as Hezbollah. And so we see Kathleen Tyson saying that if this is confirmed, it is important in several respects. So there were various Hezbollah attacks on advanced Israeli bases for electronic warfare. And we see Kathleen saying that the strikes were in occupied Lebanon against military targets, so lawful. IDF has over-reliance on electronic warfare and technology advantages. And so these things create vulnerabilities, and it looks like Hezbollah is exploiting that. And it's showing that the electronic warfare capacity that is land-based is hard to replace. And so the United States is probably going to have to become more directly involved here. And we're also seeing that Israel is using white phosphorus attacks, which is against the law. And so it looks like Lebanon might become directly involved in things relatively soon. And to a certain extent, you could argue that they're already involved, even though war has not been officially declared, because dying is happening on both sides. I've seen at least a dozen tanks and 40-some soldiers on the Israeli side have been destroyed and killed in the last few days. Here we see a post by Megatron on Twitter talking about in the last 24 hours, Israel attacked as many as 4 Arab countries today: Egypt, Palestine, Lebanon, and Syria. So just shocking what is going on here. Palestine, obviously, they're bombing, they're destroying churches, they're destroying hospitals, they're coming out right out and saying it, and then they're going back on their word and saying that it was actually Hamas that did it, even though they're the ones that told the hospitals to evacuate because they were going to bomb it. So like just ridiculous things going on in Palestine right now. Lebanon, obviously, preemptive attacks by Israel that have been returned by Hezbollah and other militants within Lebanon. Egypt, I believe, was actually, they said it was an accident, but there was some Israeli firing on Egyptian territory. And then Syria, 2 airports have been bombed. They were actually civilian airports, have been bombed in Syria, which leads me to this post, where we see that the Iranians who were bringing in equipment and bringing in troops in Syria have had to change where they are bringing in troops, bringing in equipment. And this has been a concerning change because of the fact that Israel has been trying to bomb Iranian targets within Syria. And due to bombing the civilian airports, so Iran cannot use those airports anymore, Iran has apparently gotten permission to land elsewhere. And this could be a very serious escalation that we're seeing, because Iranians are landing their troops, equipment, whatever else, in a Russian airbase in Syria. So IRGC linked A310 landed in Khmeimim Russian airbase, Syria. And so this can lead to problems because, one, on Russia's side, if this is true, it would be a major escalation. Russia is essentially directly supporting Iran to bring in troops and bring in equipment to fight Israel, because that's obviously what this is going to be about. And two, what is Israel going to do? They've been bombing civilian infrastructure, civilian airports in Syria. Are they going to bomb this Russian airbase, which, again, could lead to a larger conflict? We've been talking on this channel about the potential for World War III, and so there's a number of different flashpoints that really could lead to World War III here. And so we're seeing what is essentially an alliance forming between, at the very least, Orthodox Christianity and what is essentially all of Islam at this point, which is a bit shocking to me. I did want the alliance to be Islam and the various holy elements of Christianity, but I was not expecting both Sunni and Shia Islam to get on board with this. And you see Syrian Girl here on Twitter talking about the original 1929 proposed flag of Palestine, which had the cross and the crescent moon to represent Palestine's majority Christian and Muslim populations before Israel was created by the Rothschilds. So you're seeing a coalition form between the Jewish Zionists and the Christian Zionists versus the actual Christians and Muslims forming. And those are kind of the two sides, with obviously the Chinese being on the same side as the Orthodox Christians, the real Christian factions. And so these are the kind of battle lines that are forming for what I believe is going to be World War III. And these are the ongoing various dividing lines. I think most elements of the various factions of World War III are not up in the air anymore. Things are pretty settled on nearly everything aside from, say, India, Turkey. Turkey's such a wild card because Turkey, they've tried so hard to be a part of, I mean, they are a part of NATO, but they've tried so hard to be accepted by NATO. They've tried to be a part of EU, but they've not been accepted by EU. They've really tried to stay on the fence and tried to benefit from both sides. But this conflict is making it clear that they're going to have to choose a side eventually. I think they're going to eventually choose the side of the non-Zionist, the anti-Zionist, anti-globalist faction. But we will see if that actually occurs. So really up in the air right now are Turkey, India, maybe you could say a Vietnam, though I do think, again, they will take the anti-Zionist side. So really this coalition is forming, and it's going to be, I think, a big deal. It's essentially the West versus the rest. And we've talked in other videos about the rest is essentially 6 different civilizations, and the West is just one, the 7th civilization. So we will see how things go on that front. If you found this wrap up of recent news and my commentary on it to be particularly helpful, please provide us a thumbs up. It helps us in the algorithm on both YouTube and Rumble. Please subscribe to our channel on YouTube and Rumble, and especially on Rumble, because we are getting more engagement, more views on Rumble. We're being suppressed in the algorithm, very obviously, on YouTube. I've worked with algorithms before, and the way that things change from one video to the next, it's very obvious that they do not like, particularly my anti-Western, anti-Zionist content. And so please follow us on both channels, Rumble and YouTube, but especially on Rumble. And please leave us a comment in the comment box. I do always read them. I do have a few regulars that I comment on, I review. So it's nice to see that I have some regulars. I have some people from Serbia. I have a ton of people from Malaysia, which is very surprising to me. I have at least one teacher. So interesting coalition forming here of people in my comment section. So thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Bye.